that joined us this morning for this webinar that I'm being co-hosting with Joel Hastings of Dairy Business Communications. So we both want to welcome you, give our full welcome to you as participants. And I also want to introduce Joel. Joel is with dairybusiness.com, and a great publication that I am fortunate enough to do some writing for, some articles for. And so Joel, I want to welcome you and maybe go through quickly my 4 major objectives that I'd like to accomplish today as we go through this webinar. So welcome and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, John. Happy to be here. We've enjoyed working with you over many years, and we've admired how you've grown your business and helped lots of dairy producers and lots of farmers in these challenging financial times. Shall we talk about the points that you wanted to highlight, I think?
Yeah, I think what I want to do for the participants really is to point out that there's really 4 major objectives that I have that I'd like to accomplish today, and in what time they allow us to have, of course. 4 major objectives for today is I want to first of all talk about how so many of us, including myself, and you probably as well, we work in our business and we work hard every day, but we don't necessarily take adequate time to work on our business. So that's one objective I want to talk about today. I'd like to talk about leveraging the benefits of a group, which really ties directly into the Mastermind concept that we're going to talk about today. And number 3, I want to talk about what's it take to boost the cash flow and the profitability, build the future of a dairy operation in the good times and the bad times, because the things we're going to talk about today really work in both. And I have 20 years plus evidence of that with clients. And so I'm excited to share some of those things. And then finally, the 4th objective I'd like to accomplish today is for us to talk about a strategy for 2020 and beyond, because as you and I discussed recently in another video, we're going through some dramatic change in our industry, and we need to prepare ourselves for that.
Well, that's great, John. I'm particularly sympathetic to your first point. As a business owner myself for many years, and we know dairy farmers are very involved in working in the business. And from my standpoint as a publisher and editor, we write our stories and we work with advertisers and we do our daily routine, and it can be pretty comfortable and pretty rewarding. But I think as we look down the road a little bit as to what are we trying to accomplish, where do we go, we also have to step outside and work on the business. Tell us a little bit about how you've helped some of your farm clients do that, John.
Well, the experience the last 20 years has been pretty much all one-on-one, but same kind of concepts. I think the masterminds and that one-on-one consultation, of course, is designed to get people to think not just working in their daily routines, but on the business in the areas of finance, strategy, developing a success strategy is for the future, if you will. And, we've been through 4, and you know this as well as I do, and our listeners do as well. We've been through 4 really difficult, horrendous financial years in the dairy industry the last 4 years. And thank goodness we're seeing a little bit of light now in 2019. But I think we've lost a lot of money, a lot of equity in this industry. And number 2, unfortunately, as you well know, Joel, because you track this type of information in your organization, we also have lost a lot of producers, good people that have worked their whole lives. And it just horrifies me to see that happen, as I'm sure you too. But it led me into thinking about the things that, what have I done in my own business that I could share with people, not necessarily one-on-one, but in a group setting. And we'll talk about the benefits of the group setting a little bit as we move through the presentation. But I got to thinking about what have I done in the last 15, 20 years? And I got to thinking about that 16 years ago, I joined a business group, mastermind type group. And I'm happy to tell you that it's done a lot of things for me. It's boosted our sales because we found new ways, new ideas to introduce, and it boosted our profitability. But the nice thing is, it's been easier and probably been more likely to happen than if I had done this on my own. And I think that's the key to Mastermind. So I got to thinking about 4 or 5 months ago, I got to thinking about how can we do the same thing with dairies? And I thought, wow, this could be pretty powerful. In the group that I'm involved in with my own business, excuse me, we're from all different industries. We have accountants, we have finance specialists, we have investment people, we have jewelers. I think I said accountants already. Just a number of manufacturers, all different types of businesses. And even with being different industries in this group setting, we'll go through exercises and then share our thinking about our business. And as we come up with new ideas, we'll bounce them off each other. So do we help each other? Yeah, absolutely. Even without understanding the specifics of each other's industries or particular business. And so I got to thinking that this could be really powerful if we were in the same industry. You know, if a group of dairymen were together, we have a teaching concept, and then wouldn't that be powerful if they could assist each other even more? Because dairyman number 1 in the group may have already been through experiences that dairymen 2, 3, and 4 are going through. And I thought how powerful that whole concept of helping each other could be, and how do we get them into that type of setting? So the last 20 years, I think about things that I've done with clients, and just a few examples. Taking a client in 2009, and I know that was a horrific year for everyone, but taking them from losing a couple $1 million to today, they're one of my most profitable clients. So 10 years later, and they've made money during that time. But there were things they were doing that they weren't wrong things, but I thought, you know, we bounced ideas off each other. They had a facility that wasn't full. And so we really weren't maximizing the efficiency of the operation. And just doing those types of things have helped tremendously. Now, here's the flip side of that. I had another operation who, ironically, we milked 2,800 cows 2 times a day. Well, actually, by going 3 times with 400 less cows, we maximized the facility and boosted the production and the profitability of that operation. They went through a horrific, horrible 2009. And I'm happy to tell you in 2010 and every year after that, they made money with the changes in the debt structure, some cost controls we put in place. And I think sometimes I talk about the mastermind concept and being in a group setting. Well, for me, my group is the clientele that I work with. Those very same people, they're like my group because I get the advantage of seeing things that do work at one setting. And I go, wow, I'll bet we could try that here. And I bounce that off of them and we brainstorm about how to do that. What I think is kind of exciting, my business coach, Dan Sullivan, I love this quote. He said, there are no unreasonable goals, just unreasonable deadlines. And for which I'm thankful, because so oftentimes I find myself missing the deadlines that I set, and probably maybe I'm an overachiever and don't necessarily give myself enough time. But I mean, you got to appreciate that. I love that quote. There are no unreasonable goals, just unreasonable deadlines. And so that's why I think the concept has a lot of merit, and I'd like to pursue it with a group of dairymen.
Well, I think one of the points that you've made in your articles for us and in our conversations is how you have worked with your clients to help them improve their cash flow, even during these, or maybe especially during these recent 4 years that have been so difficult. Talk a little about the concepts there, John.
Sure. Well, it's interesting. It's a great question you ask because it really leads into what I wanted to talk about next. And it's so often I meet with new clients, new prospects, and I'll ask them, so what would you like? And they say, well, I want to do better. Well, that's a pretty broad thing. You want to do better. I mean, does that give us $20 to paint the house, or does it give us a big picture? And I think they know they want to do better financially, but I'll often ask them, so what do you really want? And they'll say, well, I want to cash flow better. Well, the thing is, we can all state that, and you and I like the cash flow better too, right? And I think that's exciting. The problem is that it's not specific enough. So we'll drill down through some processes I do with clients, and we'll ask them to clearly define what they want. This is a painful step, but I make them outline it on paper. And the reason is because then they're committed to it. It's so easy to say, I want to cash flow better, but it's a whole nother thing to really commit to the process. Because what happens then is you have to answer the question, how do I get there? How do I get there? And I can tell you, after working with 80 to 100 dairies the last 20 years, I can help them with that, but they have to buy into the process. And I think this is very similar with the masterminds. The part of the benefit of being a group like this is not, well, you're going to contribute or I'm going to contribute as a participant, but it's what you'll get from the other participants that will help too. And I can't live the experiences of every dairyman, of course, nor do I want to. It's not my business. But the key is they may have already done some of these same things already. So if a dairyman is in this group and says, well, I want to expand this facility, or I want to do this or that, someone else in that group has probably already experienced that and can guide them, help them through that. And so together, I think we have an opportunity to create a plan that can boost cash flow, boost profitability for these clients. So the question I would ask is, for those listening in, do you have an idea that you'd like to implement? I've worked with people to develop cheese companies, other product lines, diversify into grapes, diversify into almonds. So it's not just dairy, but it could be dairy and something else, or it could be a larger dairy, a more efficient dairy. But the point is, all these plans, these new ideas that people want to implement, they're costly. It requires time and money to invest in this process, and I think it's crucial that we get it right. You can't afford to be wrong. And sometimes it's just simple things that people do. I can think of an example of a client in the last 2 years who had the opportunity, by adding 1 hour of milking in the morning and another hour in the afternoon, and they could do it. They could barely do it, but they did it. They milked the fresh cows 4 times per day. Now, that's an idea I picked up somewhere else, and it's been tested to really prove out. And those fresh cows we went up something like 8 or 9 pounds per cow, which on the whole herd overall, we went up about 3 pounds per cow per day for the whole year. And that's huge. The big problem, then we ran into another problem with tank capacity, which we've recently cured. So in that case, we created a new problem, but it was a much nicer problem to have, and we could afford to make that change. So.
Well, John, on a limited basis in the East and in the Midwest, we've seen a little bit of getting started with some of these dairy groups. The pro-dairy folks out east in New York have started that, and talking to several dairymen who participate, they're quite enthusiastic about that. It's done on a confidential basis, of course, as you would do, and the dairymen have geography in common. Sometimes they sort themselves out by the style of operation or the herd size as well.
Sure.
So I've also had experience with the group setting in a Chamber of Commerce group that I was involved in.
Okay.
where, like you, there were people from different businesses. And one of the first things that I find helpful there, and talking to dairy producers who are in a group, it does help you step outside your business or answer questions about why do you do it this way.
Sure.
And that can be kind of the opening salvo, or the first step to kind of re-examining what you're doing and why you're doing it, and
right,
maybe why you're not as successful as you'd like to be.
Hmm.
So maybe tell us a little bit more about what you anticipate with your new mastermind group concept.
Okay. My thought process is that basically this is the structure of how they'll work. For the investment that people are making in this program, it's an annual investment and it's an annual program. We're really looking at 4 one-day sessions off-site. Now, there's 3 things I want to emphasize. There's 4 sessions. They're a one-day session. They'll take most of a day, each one of them. And one of the most significant points is they're off-site. I know from my business, my experience has been that getting off-site, getting away from the distractions, it's not like you can't answer the phone or we won't ever have a break. We're not going to make people sit for 8 hours straight through without getting up. That would be horrific. That'd be horrible. It'd be horrible for me too, especially with coffee ingestion and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to emphasize the off-site aspect because you might say, why does that matter? It matters for several reasons. Number one, I think it clears our thinking so that we are focused on that specific task. Number two, it keeps us away from distractions. And obviously, if we have something serious happen at home, we need to address it. But I don't think there's anybody, and myself included in this, that if we were away from our business for a day, the whole world's going to stop, because I just don't think it's not. If we're that involved or that tied into our business, we need to look at some other things to change. Otherwise, potentially we could burn out over time. But the master planning sessions, as I visualize them, are exercises that I will lead people through, the participants through. They're using forms, for example, that we have tested for 20 years with our own clientele. And you know what, to be honest with you, before we test something on clients, I typically test them in my own business because I want to make sure they work for me. Because it's a lot easier to address concerns, objections, questions that people might have about it. Well, how does this work? Well, this is how it worked for me if I've actually done it. We needed them more than anybody, as much as anybody, I should say. And so we tested those very same forms. One of the other things that I think are really crucial in these mastermind groups, probably similar to your Chamber of Commerce events, is I call them breakout groups. So after we discuss a concept, we spend some time thinking, writing down our answers to it. I think it's important we do breakout groups. And that's a group of 3 to 5 people. So we may have 4 or 5, 6 of these groups in our mastermind session, where basically you break up with people you may not even know these people, and share your ideas. This is something I'm thinking about. What do you guys think about it? And I just think it's pretty powerful to do that. I think it's exciting to be around other people. My own mastermind groups that I've participated in, I think it's exciting to be around big people that want to make a big impact. And I can give you an example of one. And you know this, so tell me if I misspeak at any point, Joel, but long time ago, like as far back as 2001, I think I wrote 6 articles a year, every other month, for your paper publication at that time. Your business model has changed, so has mine. We've been blessed with new technology that allows us to do a lot more things. But my group challenged me to boost my goals. So I was writing 6 articles. I was probably the only person in the whole room that was writing any articles anyway for publication. But that's not the point. The point was they challenged me to do new things. So for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been doing 2 blogs a month. I'm doing 3 videos per month. And I think, as you know, we're doing 2 articles per month for your online publication. And right now with this group, I'm pledging to do another video per month exclusively for this group. And I think going back to how the masterminds will operate, we're going to have outside speakers. I am not an expert in everything, and I'm the first one to admit it. But I'm still learning from people, and I think that's exciting. We're going to have some outside speakers, experts in areas like milk marketing, accounting, some business management concepts. I'll probably do most of the finance and strategy instruction. And how about lending relationships? Those are absolutely crucial to every producer, every dairy producer. And so they're going to get the benefit of my perspective and probably the perspectives of others, maybe even some lenders. And they may not be the same perspective, but I think it's healthy to discuss those things. But pardon me.
John, if I can just interrupt just for a moment, I think one of the concepts that you've touched on here, but I think it's worth being specific about, when you're with a group and you develop a plan for your business as part of the group work, but it's your business plan and your activities, the accountability of coming back to the group and reporting back, how did it go? How is it going? What are the unanticipated problems? Or what are some of the successes? It's that accountability where, as individual entrepreneurs, we may have our family to talk about and even some of our key employees, but being accountable to a group offers a little bit different dynamic, I think. I think it's a good thing.
I guess I owe you one for that. It's a wonderful thought. Thank you for thinking of that. And I did not think of the accountability, but I think that's probably another benefit of the writing down objectives, as we talked about earlier, and maybe writing down the results as well. The exciting thing is, thank you for mentioning that. I think in all of this process, whether it's in a group or one-on-one, the increased accountability is extremely key. Because in every financial turnaround situation that I've worked in the last 20 plus years, I think it's safe to say that I think there's 5 or 6 really important steps. Number one, we have to measure where you're starting from. And there's several reasons for this. One of which is if you are making slow progress, but you don't know where you started from, then you'll get in the mode of where you're thinking we're not making any progress, which isn't true. Second of all, you just need a good starting point to measure how much progress you made. Second thing I think has to happen in these financial turnarounds and the proper management of any business, including dairies, is setting objectives. It's like we talked about earlier about knowing where you want to go. Well, I think the target is crucial because if you go around the country, I think 95% of the people you ask what they want, they can't tell you what they want. They can tell you what they don't want. But the elite 5%, the real winners in business and in life, I think, are the 5% that can tell you exactly what they want. So once you set those objectives, then this is where the group can come in. And I agree with you. The interaction between them and the accountability. Okay, Joel, you told me you were going to put new free stalls in, your third barn in the next 6 months. So how is it? We met 3 months ago. You said that we're halfway through the 6 months. How are you coming on that plan? Might be a good example. So perfect. It's a great question you asked. And then I think the fourth step is implementing the plan. And I want to add one word to that, and that is consistently. I see people sometimes develop a plan, and I'm glad they do, whether they do it with me or someone else or on their own. They develop a plan, but then they get frustrated a month or 2 months into the process. And I think going back to your accountability, it's an excellent point that you made, because if we're being accountable to each other in the group, I think then we will tend to review and we'll review, Joel, how are you coming on that project, that objective? And I think also in terms of accountability, the only way you can be accountable is to measure things. And then we update actions. I've changed course or there's some things that I started pursuing and I just thought, this isn't going where I want to go. And so I stopped, but then I replace it with something more productive, more proactive. But as far as measuring, I think one of the things our industry needs to always remember is that if we can measure something, we can understand it. And you've seen this in articles I've written before. If we can understand it, we can control it. And if we can control it, we can improve it. So it's measure it. That allows us to understand it, which allows us to control it. And if you have control, you can then make improvement. And I think you move forward and raise the bar with some new objectives that are at an even higher level, hopefully.
Well, John, I think the concept, your group concept, is intriguing. But let's talk specifics. What do you have in mind? What's a producer going to have to commit to become part of a mastermind group?
Sure, good question. Thank you. To be part of this, it's really a 1-year commitment of the 4 quarterly sessions we talked about. We have them set up to be run in California. At Harris Ranch, which is a beautiful facility. I talked about getting away from your business. This definitely will get you away from it, get me away from mine too. And I use their facilities for some of our own company training and planning as we look to the new year. The exciting thing is, I think the 4 sessions, the dates are already set, and we start our next one in, I believe it's July 19th. I hope that's the right date. But I think it takes a commitment on the part of the producer, because if we don't make a commitment to whatever process we're involved in, we're not going to see very much progress. You know what? I don't know how else to say it any better than that the other participants in the group are counting on you as a participant to really participate actively, because the interaction between participants is crucial. It's very key to the success of the program. So number one, 4 quarterly sessions in the first year. We're asking people to commit actively, to actively participate. We're asking people to apply as soon as possible, and there's 2 reasons for this. Number one, by June 1st, we're offering a $500 discount. The investment is $3,500, but if you apply by June 1st, we will drop that by $500 to $3,000. But the other reason I think it's important for people to sign up right away if they're interested in doing this is our space is somewhat limited. That's a facility constraint at Harris Ranch, and so I don't want these groups to be bigger than 20 to 25 producers, simply because I want it to be like a small family where we have very positive interaction, if that makes sense. Okay.
There we are.
Oh, yeah, I lost you for a minute. Again, the beauties of technology here.
Well, I had to clear my throat. I didn't want to do that on the air.
Good, thank you. Gentlemen, as always, thank you. So can we maybe talk a little bit about what's in it for a producer that signs up? Would that be a continuation of that?
Yeah, exactly. What do I get if I make the commitment?
Okay, so essentially you're getting about 7 things. First of all, the 4 one-day sessions. You're getting presentations at each of you'll have the 4 one-day sessions. We'll be doing presentations to each of them. I will do some presentations. Some outsiders will do presentations. We will utilize the forms that we've talked about, that we've developed with clients and for clients, and our own business also at Success Strategies. They're tested forms to guide you as a participant through this process, because ultimately we only succeed at this if the producers are making successful strides forward too. I'm going to produce a quarterly ebook with industry lessons in it, and I plan to write those each quarter, and so all participants will get those. I talked earlier about the exclusive monthly videos. I'm not planning to use these with anybody else other than the Mastermind groups. So those are going to be produced only for this group. As I said earlier, we'll have teaching of industry lessons, not only by myself, but by outsiders in the areas of milk marketing and business strategy, accounting, things like that. And the last thing, the seventh thing that I would offer is, and this is optional from a participation standpoint, but it's available to you as a participant, and that is to provide each of these producers with an annual budget. Because remember earlier I said if we measure it, we can understand it. We understand it, we can control it, and if we can control it, we can improve it. And the only way I know that is in the case of finances and cash flow, is to measure what the actual results are against what we budgeted. And it's not a mamby-pamby budget. It's pretty detailed, and it's setting some high hurdles. But as I said earlier, people do not rise to low expectations, but they do for high expectations. They can move forward. I think the key that what's in it for me also, there are new ideas. It's a structured setup for planning the growth or expansion or changing of your business. Ultimately, let's use the word improvement. I think that's important. We're going to have some outside speakers that will participate at each session. And I think there's a degree of, you called it accountability. I would also add that it's not just accountability, but camaraderie, not rivalry, but if you want to use that word, it'd be positive rivalry. I'm excited for the progress you make in your business. You're excited for the progress I make as a participant. And along that same line, we get to learn from each other. And each participant, I would hope, would operate and succeed at a higher level. And that's my ultimate objective of all of the stuff we've talked about. That's what I'm most excited about.
And I don't know that we can show really a real ROI, but as you say, the camaraderie and just some potential new friendships and new social relationships. There's some value there too, just in enjoying
Yes.
life, to meet some new folks. Well, you've given us a good overview. How do I pursue and find out and sign up or look about signing up? Where do I find the contract? What's my next step?
Well, I would suggest the best thing to do is go to our website, which is success-strategies.com. In the middle of the homepage, I believe I have a white shirt on in this video. There's a video presentation. It's fairly brief, but it tells some of the same things we've talked about today and maybe some more specifics about the program and how it operates. And it'll take you to, there's a place there where you can apply as a dairy producer. We invite producers to apply. And the neat thing is we have, this won't be for everybody. And so due to the limited space, we're going to take applications, which we've already started doing. We'll take applications. We will then, we will get them reviewed probably within a week of people submitting them. We'll get back to them and we'll then give them further instructions of that if they still want to go forward, and we're happy to have them if we can assist them with this process, then we will give them instructions as to where they will send their funding ahead of the first workshop, and look forward to being of service to anybody that participates in this.
Two questions, John. Do you have a deadline or a sign-up deadline, number one? And number two, computer technology is great, and I can find out what's going on the website, but I may want to just talk to you about this one-on-one. Can I find your phone number? Can we have a conversation about it?
Absolutely. And I don't have anything with it on it right here, but we can certainly, since we're recording this and people can listen to this again afterwards, they can always go back to this part. I can be contacted by phone or email. My email is on, I believe it's on our website, but it's John, John, at success-strategies.com. They can also reach out to me, my direct line. I can't always answer this, but I promise I will always get back to you if you tell me who you are, give me a number, best time to reach in, and what your questions are. I'm happy to answer that. But my direct line is area code 209-988-8960. And again, I welcome any inquiries that people may have. And there may be some, as you said, there may be some specific question, that they have that I'm not even thinking of, and be glad to try to address those concerns, questions that they do have. So thank you for asking that.
And you're looking for this first round of signups by June 1, is that right?
Well, I'm encouraging them to apply by June 1 because why pay more than you have to? And then, so I'm definitely, the $500 discount will be for those that apply by June 1st. And I believe our cutoff is July 1, I believe. June 30th probably, because we need to let the facility know not only that we're still coming, but how many are coming, and so they can plan the meals and stuff like that accordingly. Because we'll have a continental breakfast each session. We'll have a full lunch at each session to get people. We want people to be contented and happy while they're there. And they're going to be there all day. So I didn't mention that earlier, but certainly we have every intention of keeping people well fed and beverages for them during the day. Okay.
Well, particularly at Harris Ranch, you'll want to have a good steak dinner too.
There you go. And we encourage people that do sign up to come the night before. And if you're from way out of town, way out of California, you're probably going to have to do that, of course, and understandably so. We will have a block of rooms there designated for people up to, I'm not sure what the cutoff is for that, probably a couple weeks, 10 days before the workshop. And it's a nice place to stay. It's a unique experience to be there, as you know, Joel. And yeah, and their steaks are unbeatable. If you're a steak eater, you'll want to grab, that may be, we'll have some steak sandwiches. I'm not sure what the menu is on the lunch, but I assure you will not go away hungry from this place. And I've never had a meal, and I've had breakfast, I've had lunch, and I've had dinner at this place. I've never had a bad meal. They're excellent, and the service is great as well.
Sure.
So, hope people would enjoy that. Do we have some questions? I'd like to open it up if there's questions that people have. I'd be happy to. I have to put my glasses on to be able to read them, but let's see. Yeah, and going back, I didn't catch this. I didn't think about it, but as you asked earlier, Joel, they can go to our website, or if they want to go directly to the Mastermind page, you just put in success, https:// and then success-strategies.com, and then / mastermind group for dairy farmers. With dashes between each word, and that'll take you directly there to that specific item. Do we have any questions, anybody? If not, I'd say we're good to go. Any other questions that I haven't answered you think would be appropriate, Joel, to include for our listeners?
Seems like we've covered it pretty thoroughly, and I would just invite folks, as you do, to go to the website, look at the information, give it some thought. I think the value of working with fellow dairymen in a confidential, comfortable setting, away from the pressure of the day-to-day moment, to think about making changes in your dairy business could be very beneficial for some folks.
Yeah, and I would add, I think not to create any regional rivalries here, Joel, but we always enjoy them on a lighthearted manner, of course. That I think, as you pointed out, the Pro Dairy Group at Cornell has been doing something very similar for a long time and been very successful at it. I've spoken at some of their events, and they're a sharp group of people, and I think Again, just like the Mastermind concept that we're talking about, to be hosted in California, and that if it goes there, we'll probably look at other locations as well. I think the camaraderie, the challenging of each other in a positive way could be very beneficial. So I would suggest that's a very positive thing. In a sense, we could say it's actually been tested already with some other groups. And I think there's some real positive benefits to being in a group like this. So I would encourage people to sign up and welcome their participation. So.
Sounds like a great program. Thank you for letting me speak with you about it.
You're very welcome, and thanks for being part of it. I appreciate your time, Joel. Have a wonderful day, and again, we'll look forward to any inquiries we get by phone or email at any time in the near future. So thank you all for participating today.
Thank you, John.